Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Krishnarpanamastu Shubham Bhuyat. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Tam Sachanuramardana Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat. Hari Om to all of you. So last week we have started on chapter 13 of the Gita and we went on up to verse number 5. So we are now entering the third and the final section of the Gita, which concentrates on Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of the self. What is our true identity? Who are we in reality? So these verses, many of the verses in these final 6 chapters are actually similar to the teachings of the Upanishads. You'll find a lot of verses or teachings of the Upanishads appearing in this final section. Because the Upanishads also deal with the highest knowledge, the knowledge of Atma Gyan or Brahma Gyan. So in this chapter, you'll find that many technical terms are used. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Purusha, Prakriti, and so forth. We don't have to get confused with all these technical terms. Just remember that in this creation, there are only 2 aspects which we need to know. What are the 2 aspects? Matter and consciousness. So matter has got many names. The word Kshetra means matter. Prakriti means matter. There is also sometimes the word used Anatma, which also means matter. For consciousness, also there are many words. We can use the word Brahman, we can use the word Atman. In this chapter, the word Kshetrajna is used, knower of the field, which also means consciousness. And later on, there will be another word used in this chapter, which is called Purusha. So it's all the same, only different technical terms are used. Okay? So don't get too confused. So in verse number 3 of chapter 13, Sri Krishna said, I am going to explain to you about Kshetra and Kshetrajna. What is he going to explain to us about Kshetra? What is it like? What is it like means what are the properties of Kshetra, matter? And in verse number 5, he gave us 24 qualities of matter. Okay? So basically it is our body, our mind, everything that you see gross in creation is basically matter, and it has these 24 qualities. Then he also said the next point about matter that we need to know is what are its evolutes or what are its modifications, because matter is subject to modification. We know our body is subject to modification, mind is also subject to modification. Everything we see in this creation is subject to modification. So that what are the modifications of matter? Today we will enter into verse 6 and know about it. Okay? The next thing he said in verse number 3 is, I will also explain to you about Kshetrajna, which is consciousness. And what is he going to explain about consciousness? What are the powers of this consciousness? Only one topic. What are the powers of this consciousness? Which later on the verses in chapter 13 he will explain. Okay? So with this background, let us now enter into the verse of today, chapter 13 verse 6, whereby Krishna is going to tell us about the modifications that happen in matter. So we should know when these modifications happen, what is the important thing to know, that these modifications are related to matter, but do they affect consciousness? They don't affect consciousness, because consciousness remains the same in all periods of time, and consciousness is not subject to any modification. So we should understand if there is any modification, everything relates to matter, our body, our mind, etc. Okay? So, in fact, most of these modifications, in fact, relate to the mind also, because that's where everything starts, right? And there is an interesting verse in the Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Okay, verse number 1. It says, "Man eva manushanam karanam bandham cha mokshayo." Man eva, mind is verily karanam, the cause of what? Manushanam, of a human beings, bandham, bondage, or liberation. So, how many minds have we got? Very easy question. How many minds have we got? Only one mind. So this mind can take you to bondage, can keep you in bondage, or the very same mind can take you to liberation. And so that means what is very important, what is the nature of our mind? What are the what do you call, what are the things we let in through the experiences to our mind will determine the nature of our mind. And that will, your actions, your where you go, what type of materials you read, what type of friends you mix with, all these will influence the quality of your mind, and either will take you for bondage or will take you for liberation. Okay? So there is a little story I read in regards to this. There was a very famous archer, archer, right? One who shoots arrows. So he used to go from town to town giving demonstrations. And every time he demonstrates, when he shoots the arrow, it hits the bullseye. So wherever he goes, whenever he demonstrates, the whole crowd cheers him. It erupts in what you call support and cheers for him. So one day, a particular town, he went to demonstrate his archery, and as he shot and hit the bullseye, the whole crowd cheered. But from the crowd came one voice, "What is so great? This only practice." So of course his ego was hurt, because he said, "I'm such a great archer. Every time I shoot, I hit the bullseye. Everybody cheers, except one little voice comes out. What is so great? This only practice." So again he shot another arrow, hit the bullseye. Whole crowd cheered again. Again the voice came. What is so great? It is only practice. And like that it went on. So finally he finished. He got so irritated, he went to look for the fellow. What do you mean? So much every time I keep shooting the bullseye, the whole crowd is cheering me, and you're saying what is so great is only practice. Can you shoot arrow like that? How I hit the bullseye? So the man said, I cannot. But the man told him, I'm an oil salesman. Let me show you something. So what? He says, I have this big jar of oil. As I go from house to house, people take out their little canisters where the hole is very small. So in this little hole, I have to pour the oil from my big canister into this little canister and make sure I don't drop any oil. So he showed him how he does it. Then he asked the archer, can you do that? He can't do it without spilling some oil. So the man said, in the same way, I can't shoot the arrows to the bullseye. You cannot do what I'm doing because you have been practicing what you do. I have been practicing what I do. Now that is the story. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is this: whatever we practice in life, you become experts in it, isn't it? Whatever you practice daily, if you want to play the guitar, you practice daily, you become expert at it. So what should we learn from this? If you practice anger daily, jealousy, hatred, talking bad about people, all and egoistical actions, you practice it daily, what will you become good at? Exactly all these qualities. But if you practice compassion, love, humility daily, you will become good at it. So the lesson here to be learned is we have to push ourselves and practice these good values. If we don't and practice the bad values, they will become our. So this is the lesson we have to learn. So now, what are the modifications of matter. We will look at it now. The first modification is called desire, ichha. So desire, of course, can be good or desire can be bad. It depends on us where we are focusing our mind on. So desire, which is bad, which is the mainly most of us have the wrong type of desires. So these desires, we always keep on focusing, will I get this? Will this be mine? What can I achieve this? Can I do that? So these are the desires that are basically coming from our mind. And this desire, ichha, is also known as kama, Kaama, or raga, Raga. We say likes and dislikes. So that is the first modification. That means if you are experiencing these desires, where is it coming from? From the mind. And are you the mind? Scriptures tell us we are not the mind. So we have to understand that these desires are coming from the mind, and we as the consciousness are a witness to these desires. So we should not get tangled with them. Second quality is dvesha. Dvesha means repulsion or hatred, and it is our perceived dislike of people, places, objects, situations. So both this ichha, dvesha, likes and dislikes, they go hand in hand. Okay? And both of these can lead us to another more bigger problem. If we don't control likes and dislikes, can lead us to a bigger problem called anger. So how is anger connected to likes and dislikes? Whenever there is a barrier to what we like, then that results in anger. When we cannot get what we desire, that translates into anger. So both likes and dislikes carry this problem. Okay? Third quality is called sukham or happiness. That arises from satisfying our desires. Again, as I said, the desires can be good or bad. So we have good desires when we like going to temple, going on pilgrimage. When we can satisfy those desires, we feel. Next quality is dukham. Dukham arises when we are unable to satisfy desires. Next quality he gives here is chetana, sentience. Now, this one we have to be very careful to understand. Mind, is it sensuous or insentient? Is it life or dead? Does it have a life of its own? Does the mind have a life of its own? Yet the quality described here is chetana, which means sentience. It means that when the Atma, the consciousness is in us, the first thing it enlivens is the mind. Once the mind is enlivened, the mind in turn enlivens the whole body. So when the soul enters the body, it first enlivens the mind. When the mind is enlivened, the entire body comes alive. So this is a property of the mind, sentience, because mind can then experience everything. Just like there is bulb, but the bulb cannot shine unless there is electricity. So when the electricity enters the bulb shines. The same way when the consciousness enters the mind comes alive and starts experiencing all this likes, dislikes, happiness, sorrow, etc. etc. Okay? So we have to understand one more thing. At the time of death, at the time of death, why does the body become lifeless? Because many people think wrongly. At the time of death, the body becomes uh, there's no life in the body, not because Atma has left the body. There is one misconception we should understand. At the time of death, Atma does not leave the body. Now, why I say that? Because what is the property of Atma? Atma is all pervading. That means it is inside the body, it is outside the body. So at time of death, why is the body lifeless? not because Atma has left the body, it's because the subtle equipment, that is the mind, the intellect, the vasanas have all left the body. So, although consciousness is in the body, it cannot express the life because mind is gone. So, the mind has left the body, intellect has left, the vasanas have left the body. So, consciousness is there, but the mind is not there. So, there is no expression of life. Okay? We have to be very careful on this. See, Atma is like space. Think of Atma as space. Inside the room, it is outside the room. It is everywhere. So, yeah, it is all pervading. We say, right? All pervading. So, anything that is all pervading cannot move from one place to another. It has to be everywhere. Next quality given is Dhriti, a very important quality. Dhriti means the fortitude, or we can say willpower. A very important quality because when we have this and we put it to the right direction, we can achieve anything. So most of the time we find it's a struggle for us to come for Gita classes, to go to temples. So why? Because we have to push ourselves. This is our willpower. That God has given us this willpower, and it is up to us how we use this willpower. Okay? So Dhriti is a very important quality in us. The next quality given here is Samgatas, which means the aggregate gross body. Now, the gross body also is subject to all kinds of modifications. That's why in the very beginning, the first verse in chapter 13, Krishna told Arjuna, Idam Shariram is Kshetra. What is matter? Idam Shariram. Your whole body is nothing but matter because it is subject to change. Now, what are the changes of the body? It is said in our scriptures that the body goes through 6 stages. The first stage is called asti, means it comes into existence. Where does it come from? Where does the body come from? The body you and I have, where did it come from? It says it exists. Where did it exist? Where did it come from? Uh, yeah, that is only the elements. But why do you have this particular body? All of us have different type of body, face, everything. From the vasanas or from the past seeds, that all the actions are there in dormant form. So once we take birth, these they are released and they come and occupy a new body. So it exists in the womb. The seed first exists in the womb. That is the first stage. The second stage is jayate. The body takes birth. So from existence now it takes birth. It comes alive into the world. The third modification it goes through is called growth. Grows, okay, from small to big, etc. It grows. Next, it is subject to modification, viparinamate. From fat you can become thin, from thin you can become fat, etc. So many modifications. Skin gets wrinkles, all kinds of things happen. Next, transition is decay. The body starts decaying. And finally, nashati, it perishes. So these are the 6 modifications that a body or everybody's body goes through. Okay? So Krishna also mentions this here as some gathas, which means the entire gross body is also subject to modification. So what is this now? Krishna says, Etat, meaning these 24 qualities of the body, which of matter, which I gave in verse number 5, and the modifications which are explained in verse number 6, the Lord says, Udharitam have been spoken about by me briefly. I've told you in brief. Because why he says briefly, the modifications, there is no end to it. There can be so many amount of modifications in our mind, in our body. So, excuse me, very briefly he has told us about the quality of matter, the 24 components of matter in verse 5 and what are the modifications in verse. Now, a new topic starts in verse number 7. Okay? Verse 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is a new topic which is going to be called as jnanam. Now, jnanam normally means knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Okay? We are talking here about Atma Jnanam. But there is always the question, why do we find it so difficult to attain this knowledge? Why are we not able to grasp it? Why are we not able to understand it? What are the hurdles that are in our way for us to attain this knowledge? So, uh, under this topic of jnana, what the Lord is going to explain is that you need certain qualifications of your mind in order to get this knowledge. So, there are about 20 qualities which He is going to give to us. The more and more of these qualities we have, the more easier we will find that we can attain this spiritual knowledge, we can understand it, and we can apply it in our lives. So these 20 qualities are very, very important for us. Make a list of it, make a checklist, and see what qualities you have and what qualities you don't have so you can develop them. Now, there is a text written by Vyasa. You all know who's Vyasa, right? One text he wrote, a very important text called Brahma Sutras, very deep text. Brahma Sutras means sutras meaning verses on Brahman, on the very highest supreme consciousness. So it's a very deep text that contains 555 verses. Now, for somebody to study that text, Ved Vyasa wants to warn us that if you want to study this text, you must have a qualification. So in the very first verse, he writes, Athato Brahma Jignyasa. Athato, from now onwards, Jignyasa means inquiry into Brahman. So, Athato Brahma Jignyasa, the very first verse he writes. Now, henceforth, inquiry into Brahman. So, when he writes now, henceforth, I am now inquiring about Brahman, what was I doing before this? Obviously, something I must be doing before this. Isn't it? He's saying now, henceforth, you are entering into inquiry of Brahman. That means he's telling us before you even start inquiring into what is Brahman, what is consciousness, what is this Atma, I must be ready, I must have a prepared mind. How do I prepare my mind? Through Karma Yoga Sadhana, through Bhakti Yoga Sadhana. I must prepare my mind. Then I will have all these 20 qualities which will help me to understand this spiritual knowledge because it's very deep knowledge. It's not easy to understand that I am not this body, I am the consciousness. We can all say it mechanically, but the minute we leave this hall, what happens? Immediately you forget I am Atma, you remember I am the body. So it is something we have to keep on consistently reminding ourselves. Okay? So now uh, there is a thing called how to assess our personality, okay, in terms of spiritual context. So one easy way is called FIR. What is FIR? F is you ask yourself how frequently you get disturbing thoughts in your mind. F is for frequency. So how often do I get disturbed? How often do I get distracted? I want to do something. I want to come for guitar class, but my mind gets distracted somewhere. I try to sit down in my house and read the Gita, but my mind gets distracted. So F stands for frequency. I stands for intensity. When you get disturbed, how intense is that disturbance? Is it just a mild disturbance? Then it's okay, you can get back to track. But some people get so intensely disturbed that they become verbally abusive, they can become physically, they can throw things around. So I stands for intensity. You have to judge yourself. Okay? Don't judge other people, it's for ourselves. And R is for recovery. When your mind gets disturbed, how fast do you recover from that situation? So this is something we have to question and analyze ourselves. Okay? Now the question is, how do I, what you call this FIR? And the other thing is increase in the good qualities like calmness, cheerfulness, confidence. We have to get all these qualities. Now, how do I nourish all these qualities? Again, in our scriptures, there are certain guidelines given. I've sent you the notes in today's or WhatsApp thing. The first one, very important, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago, is called Viveka. Viveka means introspection. Every day reading the scriptures, every day asking questions, every day doing some research on things that you don't understand. So introspection, asking questions, researching, reading, very important. If you don't keep time aside, you only depend on these Gita classes once a week, you're not going to progress fast. Okay? So every day keep time aside, whether it is half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you can spare, keep that time and be disciplined on Viveka. Second, also very important quality called Sankalpa, which means using our willpower to change our unhealthy habits, make a resolve that whatever your unhealthy habits are, to drop them, to give them up, okay, little by little, and pick up some good habits. So Sankalpa is a very strong, what we call quality given only to human beings, because no one, no other creature has got the willpower to change their life except. Third quality is Prati Paksha Bhavana, which means neutralizing unhealthy thought patterns. How do I neutralize unhealthy thought patterns? By entertaining the opposite healthy thought patterns. So, example, let's say you have hatred for some person. What do? You don't like that person, intense hatred for that person. What do? If you can avoid is good also. Once you stay in your own house, then what do? See, the only way is to then start praying for them. We can only start praying for them. Now, it is not easy in the beginning because we have intense hatred for that person. We want to pray for his good, so his life will be good, he'll be healthy. Initially, you might pray with a lot of frustration and anger. You pray, but you don't feel it in the heart. But if you keep on going on and on and on, slowly you will find that it becomes very natural. So we have to start eradicating unhealthy thoughts to pushing our mind to opposite healthy thoughts. That is called Prati Paksha Bhavana. Next quality is called Satsanga. Very important. Satsanga. Associating with people who value the same values that you have, the same goals that you have. So mix around with those kind of people because they will always keep you encouraged and keep you on the right. Okay. So in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, very interestingly, he writes that whoever you consistently associate yourself with, or whoever you attach yourself with, you will become that like that person. So if you associate with somebody who has high values, high ideals, high what you call motives, you eventually become like that person. But there is one catch, he told there. You have to follow and idolize that person for a minimum of 12 years. I don't know why he came up with this formula. That if for 12 years you follow this person, you follow his action, follow his behavior, follow his teachings, within 12 years you will find a change in yourself. That's what he wrote in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And the final quality is Prarthana. Prarthana means prayer to the Lord. Constantly pray and surrender to the Lord to invoke his blessings. And one of the most beautiful prayers can be found in the Gita itself, which Arjuna used in the very beginning, or no, chapter 2, verse number 7. A very beautiful prayer verse. That's what Arjuna did, pray to the Lord, surrender to the Lord. just, took his teachings from him. If you can learn this prayer, chapter 2, verse 7, it's a beautiful prayer. Okay? So now let us look at the 20 qualities which are hindrance to our spiritual growth. Okay? What are those qualities? The first one he says is amanitvam. Now he's giving us the opposite. It means qualities to cultivate. Amanitvam means it's the opposite of manitvam. By putting the A in front of the manitvam, it takes the opposite meaning. So manitvam means arrogance, superiority complex. See, when we have so much of fame, we have so much of wealth, so much of victory, so we get carried away. So the quality that we need is amanitvam, means humility, absence of pride, etc. Okay? So that's why in chapter 4, verse 34, I think we discussed this last week also. One of the qualities of a devotee of the Lord, Krishna gave is paripatena, chapter 4, verse 34. Paripatena means to totally surrender, have the attitude of total surrender towards the Guru, towards God, towards the scriptures, total surrender. Next quality is called adambitvam. Adambitvam means unpretentiousness. Now, this means making a show of our virtues to gain recognition from society. Now, what is the difference between the earlier one, amanitvam and adambitvam? Amanitvam also is to show off. Adambitvam also to show off. But what is the difference? Amanitvam is practiced at mental level, the first quality, which means to think of yourself superior, okay, to have all these high ideas about you. That's egoistical. This one, adambitvam, means to show off to people by wearing all kinds of branded clothes, designer clothes, and all that. So you show off through your ornaments, through your clothing, and all that. That is a subtle difference between the first and the second quality. Third quality is ahimsa. Again, another very important quality. So ahimsa, as you all know, is non-violence, but non-violence must be practiced at three levels. Not only at physical level, but also at mental level. That means you must be careful that you don't have violent thoughts in your mind of hurting somebody, harming somebody. Because once you are not able to control those mental impulses, it comes out physically also. So, ahimsa, non-violence, is at the physical level, at the mental level, and also at the level of speech. Be very careful the type of words also you use. Abusive words, angry words, etc. When you lose your anger, what should you do? The next quality is given there. Forgiveness. Now, you're losing your anger. What do? How do you forgive somebody? You can't forgive. What do? At that point of time when you're going to lose your anger, in front of you, that person is there. What can you do? What the sister said earlier. Walk away. That's the only thing you can do. Right? Because anger has got to be delayed. If you cannot delay anger, you are going to say something wrong or you're going to throw something at somebody and later you will regret it. So anger has only way to handle it. They call it nowadays, they have anger management therapy. So, recognizing there's a problem in society, the people cannot handle their anger. Right? And for little things, I read an article in India whereby a husband went back late at night shift or what he was working, I don't know, went back. So the wife had prepared the dinner and left it on the table there. So she went off to sleep late at night. He comes back, chapati is cold, gets so angry, he went and killed the wife. Just for what? Because he couldn't get hot chapatis. Just because of that. Can't control his anger. So little incidences can just blow up. Anti. Forgiveness, postponing or avoiding violent or revengeful responses. So that's why we have mantras. Chant your mantras when anger is coming. Walk away from the situation. Pray for the person who you're angry with in order to cool yourself down. Next quality, arjava, sincerity. being free of deceitfulness. Again, practice at all three levels also. Mental, physical, verbal. That means not entertaining crooked thoughts, not speaking words to deceive and con people. Nowadays, a lot of scams and all going on. Okay, so not doing actions to cheat others. Next quality, acharyo asana. There are two words there. Acharya means the teacher who imparts knowledge. Upasana means to serve that one who imparts knowledge to you. Now, why do we need to do that? Why do we need to listen to the instructions? If the teacher gives you some instructions or gives you certain duties to perform, why should you do it? What is the benefit in that? You're taking knowledge anyway. Whether you do or don't do, you still get the knowledge. So why should you do it? What is the purpose? Right? That's one good reason. Yes, correct. Make you more humble. And second is what? Which Krishna told us in chapter 3 or 4. Said the one who cooks and eats everything for himself is a thief. So meaning what here in this context? You are taking knowledge. What are you giving back? So whatever we receive from whatever it is, whether you receive knowledge or help or whatever it is, you always give. So there is also one concept now called pay it forward. So if you somebody does good for you, okay, helps you in a situation or whatever it is, what do? That person doesn't want to take money from you. So the concept is paid forward. You go and help somebody else. So that way you, how you say, you equalize your favor that you have got. Okay? So this is exactly Acharya Pasanam. I am taking knowledge, or whatever it is, how do I give back again to that from where I benefit? Next quality is Saucham, which is cleanliness. Again, at what we call at cleanliness again means not only keeping the body clean, environment clean, our speech also must be clean, and our thoughts also must be clean. So everything is practiced at physical, mental, and vocal level. Aerial, persistence. Persistence means to put in extra effort to overcome all obstacles, especially on the spiritual path. See, why is it so difficult for us to progress on the spiritual path? Why is it so easy for us to go into the worldly path? Worldly path very easy to take up all kinds of wrong habits, drugs or alcohol and all. Very easy to fall into that. But people tell you go temple, you so far away, not go raining, this, that, too hot. 101 excuses we have. We struggle to go on the spiritual path, but we find it easy to go into the wrong kind of habits. So it is like, it is basically because the nature of our mind. The mind is looking for something, what they call easy, what we call, what's that word? Easy way out, and also for quick, what do you call that? Instant gratification. Yes, instant gratification. That's what our mind doesn't want to struggle. What gives me quick happiness, I run towards that. Spiritual path is a struggle. It's not easy. But what does Krishna say about happiness in chapter 18, the three types of happiness? What is sattvic happiness? What is rajasic happiness? What is tamasic happiness? All three are happiness. Sattvic happiness is that which is poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. So in the beginning, you struggle, you face a lot of challenges, all that, but in the end, there is nectar. That is a sattvic happiness. Rajasic happiness is that which is nectar in the beginning, but it is poison in the end. So taking up alcoholism, drug, and whatever it is, all that seems like nectar, but in the end, it leads you to poison. And tamasic happiness is that which keeps you in ignorance from beginning till end. So you don't change at all. You're eating and sleeping the whole time. So happiness is there, but what type of happiness we have to ask. Next quality given here is Atma Vinigraha. Again, don't get confused. Vinigraha means self-control. What does Atma mean? Does the soul need self-control? So what needs self-control? The mind. So Atma here refers to the mind, also meaning body and all your organs, your senses. You must have total self-control. Now the question we ask ourselves is, why should we have a why should we lead a disciplined life? Why have self-control? What is the purpose of it? So the purpose is this: if we indulge in so many wrongful activities, where is there the time to then pursue the spiritual path? So all these are wasteful, taking away our energies, our resources, if we cannot discipline ourselves. When we can discipline our senses, our mind, our body, then we can direct our actions to the right path. So discipline is very, very important also. Then in the next verse, he gives us some more qualities. Vairagyam, Indriyateshu. Vairagyam means non-attachment. Non-attachment to what? Indriyateshu, which means regards to the sense objects. Now, we have five senses, and all the five senses, each sense interacts with a certain sense object. So, eyes will react with form, nose will react to smell, ears will react to sound, and so forth and so forth. Okay. So, what it means here, vairagya means non-attachment means. What does non-attachment mean? Does it mean that we should not enjoy our life? That we should know what they say, see no evil, what speak no evil, close off all your five senses and go and sit in the house. We are constantly engaging with the world. There is nothing wrong with enjoying. So, what does non-attachment mean? Non-attachment means is when we experience a happy experience, either through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, whatever it is, we must not have that expectation that we will enjoy it again and again and again. So we must not be what we call anchoring for that same enjoyment again and again. This is where the resources of the mind get exhausted. We enjoy it, we just leave it aside and we carry on with something else. If that enjoyment comes again, it's okay. If it doesn't come again, it's also okay. That is called non-enjoyment. And so one should not get attached to what we call experiences, especially pleasant experiences. And in earlier verse also, chapter 2, if you look at chapter 2, verse 14, there also Krishna explained about this context of senses with the sense objects. Chapter 2, verse 14. This is on page 31. Chapter 2, verse 14, page 31. Arjuna, the contact of senses and their objects, which give rise to feelings of heat and cold. Heat and cold means at physical level, pleasure and pain at mental level. They are what? Transitory. They cannot, maybe they can come again or not come again. They last for a certain time and fleeting. Therefore, Arjuna, endure them. If they are painful experiences, they come for a certain period of time, we must learn to endure them. If pleasant experience come, we enjoy them and get them out of our mind. You don't keep on thinking again and again about the same thing. So, likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. See, what does this attachment does? It takes us away from our daily duties. What is right and wrong, we get carried away by likes. One of the best examples in today's context of likes and dislikes is what is Facebook. You know how it works, right? You go to a restaurant, order a dish. Before you eat, what do you do? Huh? Take photograph and then you upload it to your uh, Facebook account. Why do you upload it? to get the likes and dislikes, raga dvesha. Now, supposing you are enjoying the food and suddenly you see in your hand food, you got total number of dislikes. What happens then to your mood? So you realize what you have done. You are happy eating the food. You have no problem. You love that dish. But because you suddenly see so many dislikes, now your mind gets disturbed. So what have you done? You have handed over, think about it very carefully, you have handed over your happiness to some other person's hand. They are determining whether you remain happy or sad. So this is what likes and dislikes does. It keeps us tossing around here and there. We are handing over that state of the mind to other people and we are not in control of it anymore. So these are the things they say to get over our likes and dislikes. Don't be attached to them also. Next quality given is anahamkara, which is the opposite of ahamkar, which is ego. Okay? Now, anahamkara also means ego. It basically means identification with the body. So, supposing we are somebody very famous, or people are always praising us, or we have a very good family name, or we have a position of power and all that. So, we are so attached to this body. That is called ahamkara. Okay? But how does a spiritual aspirant handle this ego or attachment to the body? Always you have to maintain this attitude that the body is an instrument given to you to discharge your karmas. God has graced you with this instrument to carry out your duties. So one should not get attached to this body because we say the body is only given to us temporarily. Before you had this body in the previous birth, you had a different body, you had a different environment, different family, everything. Now you come, you take this body. By the time you go to your next birth, you have to give this up. So why get so attached to this body? And there is a beautiful story given about Ved Vyasa to explain this concept. Since one day he was standing on the banks of the Yamuna and could not cross because there was heavy rain and the waters were very choppy. So he was waiting for the waters to settle down, and no boatman was willing to take them across. So while he was waiting, a group of gopis came, ladies. They came. It was late at night. They also wanted to cross the river. So they pleaded to Vyasa, please help us to cross the river. You are a great sage, something you can do for us. So Vyasa said, right now I'm very hungry. What food do you have? So whatever they were carrying with them, gave him, eat chapati, they gave him milk, they gave him curds. Everything he kept on eating and eating and eating until his whole stomach was full and they had no more food to offer him. So they said, now you're full, right? So can you help us cross the river? He said, okay. So he went and stood at the banks of the Yamuna and said, oh Mother Yamuna, if I have not eaten anything today, if I have not eaten anything today, please part your waters to allow us to cross. The ladies are looking at Vyasa. What a crazy man he is. He's eaten all our food and he's telling Mother Yamuna that if I have not eaten anything today, please part your waters. And miraculously, the waters parted. Why? Because when he said, if I have not eaten anything today, which means what? What is that I? Not the body. He always considered himself as the conscious. So Vyasa was on that level. He never identified with this body. So they all managed to cross back to the other side. So non-identification with the body is called anahamkara, opposite of ahamkara. And the next quality here given is to prove the story to us. I think you have to wait for the ladies to. Otherwise, there will be no story. So the next quality is janma. Okay, janma means birth. Mrityu means death. Jara means old age. Yadi means disease. Dukha, miseries, and doshas means defects of the body. So how many qualities are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 qualities are there. Okay? So what about all these six qualities that we all go through? The Lord says here, Anudarshanam. We should not be thinking again and again about these six matters. So we always think about our birth. Why was I born in this family? Why was I born in this situation? Why could not I have been born there or here or different body or different place? We are constantly complaining about that karma. And Mrityu, death, we are constantly worried when our death will come. Jara, old age also worries us. Vyadi, disease also worries us. Dukha, miseries worry us. Dosha, defects of the body also. So, what Krishna is saying here, Anudarshana meaning don't keep on thinking about that again and again and again. Why? Because this is Mother Nature taking its course. Birth, death, disease, old age is going to come, no matter how much you keep on worrying. And that also means the energies and the focus of our mind also are always upping on these things. So again, we don't have full control of our mind to focus on the spiritual path. Now we come to verse number 9, where the Lord gives us some more qualities also. Okay? So first thing we have to understand that in every birth that the jiva takes, every birth, we are presented with a different body, different environment, different relations based on the past karmas which we have to exhaust. See, Adi Shankaracharya gave a very beautiful example. He said, it is like when we bought a train to go on a long distance journey. You know, in India, they got these trains running for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So you bought the train and you're on a long distance journey. You're in a compartment. As the train moves along from station to station, from state to state, what happens in that compartment? Some people get on the train, some people get off the train because their destination has come. When they get off, we don't follow them and get off because we have a different destination. And when people come into the train compartment, because they are together sometimes 2 or 3 days, they start exchanging food with one another. They start telling their stories to one another. But when their station comes, what do? Do they stay with you? They have to get down. So Shankara is saying in the same way, the family that we have gathered in this life is like a train compartment. We will share a particular journey with them. But when they have to get in, when they have to get off, it depends on their own karma. We cannot control that. So our relationship, we have to understand, it is only temporary, only to come at that time, experience that, exchange our experiences. When our station comes, we have to get off. When their station comes, they have to also get off also. So uh, this is what he described our life as a train compartment. So here Krishna says the next quality is Anabhishwanga. Anabhishwanga means absence of extreme fondness, extreme attachment to what? Putra. Putra here means sons and daughters. Dara, wife. Wife again means spouse, of course. Can be either wife or husband. Grihadishu, which means home. So these are the three things: children, house, and home. Because while we all, when we read the scriptures, we understand that everything is temporary. Nothing you can hold on is going to be permanent. There is nothing which is going to last forever. Everything is subject to arrival, change, and departure. So first we have to get rid of this mentality. This is mine. This belongs to me. Actually, in reality, nothing belongs to you. It can come anytime. It can go. So you recall in chapter 1, what is it that distracted Arjuna? In chapter 1, verse 34, he started giving a long list of the people on the battlefield. But how did he identify those people on the battlefield? Did he say they are bad people? I need to kill them? He said, they are my teachers. They are my fathers. They are my sons, or relatives, grandfathers, fathers in law, grandsons. He looked upon them as relatives that he had to fight. So, many people, when they read this, they say, what is wrong? He didn't want to fight them. He didn't want to kill them. That is called compassion. It's very good. What is wrong with Arjuna? Why do you say Arjuna is wrong? So we must understand there's a difference between attachment and compassion. Here Krishna is talking about attachment. There is a thing called compassion. What is the difference between attachment and compassion? Attachment is when we get carried away that we fail to do our duty. Example, if a judge sees a convict in front of him who's convicted of murder or whatever it is, and that person happens to be his most favorite nephew. So there is attachment. Because of that attachment, it overrides our capacity to discharge the right duty. Whereas compassion is there, it's good to have compassion, but it should not take us away from dharma. So we have to keep this in mind very clearly. Attachment overrides our dharma, whereas compassion does not overpower our dharma. So, so that's why he says we should not give in to this strong attachment for house, spouse, and for children. But understand, compassion for them is there, love for them is there, but when it's time to do your duty, you do. It's time to reward them, you reward them. It's time to punish them, you punish them. Okay? So that is the most important thing we have to remember. Finally, he says here, Nityam cha amachitatvam ishta anishta upatitastu. Nitya means constant. Sama means equanimity of the chittattva means of the mind. Constantly keeping our mind away from ishta, desirable, anishta, undesirable, upati, upa, upapatishtu means getting. So our mind must be free from constantly thinking about what is favorable, what is unfavorable. So that is what we get in life most of the time. Either we go through favorable experiences, unfavorable experiences, and our mind again gets boggled down with this. What are the good experiences we went through? We keep on thinking about them. What are the unfavorable experiences? We keep on thinking about. So Krishna says one has to overcome this. And finally, the last verse we will take here is verse number 10. Okay, how to develop a balanced mind? Very important question we want to ask ourselves. How to develop a right mindset? So two important sadhanas are going to be given to us now. The first sadhana in verse number 10 is called Ananya Yogena Bhakti. A very important sadhana. Ananya Yogena Bhakti means unswerving devotion. What do we mean by unswerving devotion? Which means whether you're going through happy times, whether you're going through bad times, your devotion for the Lord remains the same. It's not that when everything is very nice and dandy, I love the Lord. When I'm going through bad times, then I do love the Lord. So that is called Ananya Yogena Bhakti. That is the first quality which will be given in verse 10. And in verse 11, he gives a second quality which is called Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Adhyatma means knowledge of the self. Jnana, knowledge of the self. Another very important point he makes here is Nityatvam, meaning what? Every day we must read the scripture. We must not take the spiritual path as a hobby, as a pastime. If you are serious about a spiritual path, constantly every day devote your time to the spiritual knowledge. So when we come back the next week, we will come and take these two qualities. We end with a prayer. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam